All right, the first letter that I'm going to discuss is the letter that's entitled client letter number one. Okay, this letter, if you work for a litigator, is going to probably go out 300 times in a year. Okay, so it's one that you probably want to keep a copy of. I'm gonna, if I was you, I would print out this letter and follow along, or at least pull it up. Maybe you don't have access to a printer, and pull it up and look along on a split screen. See, I have it right here, but you're not going to be able to see it very well unless you're following along. Okay. The first thing I want you to notice is at the top of the page, it is entirely blank. Okay. Now, that probably should seem a little weird to you. Okay. But it's not. Okay. Because lawyers like me and pretty much every lawyer, we have what we call letterhead. Okay. And the letterhead is printed on fine paper. Okay. Why do we just not use some kind of fancy font and stuff like that? It'd probably be cheaper. Okay, maybe attorneys are doing that today, but I and most attorneys are old school. And when we send stuff out to the client or any letter, it's on our letterhead. It's on nice, usually light brown paper. Okay. Now, the other thing I need to remind you of to do is when we send a letter out of the office, what are you going to do as you do that? I hope you already know the answer, but if you don't, this is probably the most important thing you're going to learn. We make a copy of the letter and we put it in the file. Okay, every file that we have has a correspondence section, and any letter that we send out of the office, you've got to make a copy of that. I usually put it on yellow paper or a different color paper than anything else, so I can quickly find letters that I've sent out. Okay, so get some yellow paper and always make copies of anything in terms of correspondence that we send out of the office. Okay, so anytime you print out a letter, you're going to get two pieces of paper. You're going to get our fine letterhead that's going to go on page one, and then you're going to get a yellow piece of paper that's going to be our copy. Okay, we don't want to use our own letterhead for our own to put in our own correspondence file. Why? Because letterhead is expensive, and we don't want to use our letterhead for our own correspondence file. Okay, so that's a little tip for you. Always make two copies. The one to go to the client, the one to go in our file. Okay, if you don't do that, your attorney is going to be pissed. Okay, so don't forget that. Okay, so the top of the page is blank. Now, what comes right under the letterhead? The date. Okay, the date is critically important. Okay, the reason why is if we have any dispute with the client later on, we need to know, we need to have some reference on the date that we actually created and sent out the letter. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, because remember, I recycle documents all the time. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I haven't sent a letter out with a wrong date, okay? Because when I need to do a document similar to this, I just pull up an old one and switch it around, and the last thing I look at is the date. But you, as my secretary or my paralegal, okay, you're responsible to make sure that date is correct, okay? It's going to be your fault, not mine, okay? So the date goes under that. That's very important. It creates a documentation as to when the letter actually went out in case there's an issue with the client later on as to when it was sent, okay? The court's going to presume that if we put a particular date on it, that was the date we actually sent it out, okay? Right, now, immediately under that, you see that the date is generally centered, okay? If your attorney tells you to make it flush left, do what he says, but most of us put it centered. Okay, then we will have the address of the recipient of the letter. Okay, you can see here that it says XXX, okay, because I deleted the name of the client due to confidentiality reasons. Okay, sometimes you might see a name in there, and the reason that you might is because in my documents that I use examples for you is I have the client's permission. Like it's one of my dad's businesses or something that I don't need to get the permission. But a lot of these letters, the names are going to be redacted because of confidentiality issues with the client. Okay, so we have the name, we have the address, and then we have the the city and all that. Okay, if we're sending it by fax, we're going to have the fax number under there too. Okay, If we're sending it by email, we probably have the email address there. Okay, so date, address of the recipient, and then you see there's a little section called re. Okay, the re is always indented. Why? I don't know. It's just the way we do it. Okay, re means regarding. I'm sure you already know that. Okay, and then if you look, it says XXX versus Kern County Superior Court, Kern County Superintendent of Schools. Okay, that is the title of the case. We usually use the name of the first plaintiff and the first defendant. Okay, and then we always put, if we've already filed a lawsuit, we will put the case number there. Okay, when a case is filed with a court, then they give the case a number. Okay, so we're always going to refer to it by the name and the case number. Okay, that always goes there. If it doesn't have anything to do with the case, we'll put what it's about. It might be upcoming deposition, or our conversation of a previous date, whatever it might be. Okay, but normally if the case is ongoing or it's in potential litigation, we'll put the name of the litigants there. Okay, so that's indented. Okay, we always underline the name of the case too. Why? I don't know. What I was told to do, so I do it. If your attorney tells you to do something different, do it. Okay, all right, and then flush left after that is what we call the salutation. Okay, if you remember one thing out of this lecture is salutations need to be formal, not hey dude, hi Joe, what's going on, que pasa? No, okay, it's going to be dear Mr. or Mrs. or Ms. Okay, now sometimes you might get a name, like I remember I had to write a letter one time to somebody whose name was Jaime. Now, this was a bummer because I didn't know if it was a girl named Jamie or if it was a dude named Jaime. So try to find out, if the name is a little bit ambiguous, like, I don't know, Carol can be a guy or a girl, but usually you'll know who it is. Okay, so every letter is going to start out dear Mr. or Miss or Ms., whatever it is, whoever. Okay, and then a colon. Okay, then we have the body of the letter. Okay, so we have the salutation or greeting, and then we have the body of the letter. Okay, now let's look at this letter. I've got to put on my glasses. It's one of the things of getting old. Don't laugh at me. Okay. Okay. This letter concerns what we call discovery. Okay. During the course of civil litigation, the other side is going to send us what's discovery. They're going to ask for documents. They're going to ask us questions that we have to respond to in writing under penalty of perjury, la-di-di, la-di-da. Okay. We can't just send this letter concerns what we call interrogatories. Interrogatories are written questions. Okay. The client has to answer them. Okay. And we're going to need the client's help. So what do we do when the interrogatories come in? We make a copy of the interrogatories. We send them to the client with a transmittal letter. Okay, so let's see what this one says. Enclosed are form interrogatories that have been propounded by the defendant. Okay, next thing says the responses are due November 6th, 2000. Okay, normally we have 35 days plus 5 days for mailing for responses to interrogatories. Okay, why do we put the date they're due? Because this is what's going to happen to you if you work for a litigator like me. Nothing's going to happen for 3 weeks, and then like 5 days before they're due, the client's going to call you up and say, huh? Oh yeah, you sent me a letter? Oh yeah, okay. So, this is why we sent it. We documented that we sent them a letter, and we told them that we need their help, and this is the date that our responses are due. Okay, that's classic CYA. Okay, I'm not talking California Youth Authority. Okay, please read through the document and provide me with rough drafts of the answers. Okay, now, you know how many clients actually provide me with written rough drafts of the answers? Like, I don't know, maybe 2 out of 100. Okay, so it would be great if they did, but this is what's going to happen. In about 2 weeks, you're going to have to call them, and you're probably going to have to get the information over the phone or get them to come in to answer them. Okay, but if they provide us written rough drafts of the answers, that would be awesome. Okay, it'd make my job a lot easier, and your job too, but it's probably not going to happen. Okay, but if they do, awesome. Okay, I would appreciate receiving your rough draft responses by November 1st. Okay, because then we'd have 5 days to actually type them up, or I wouldn't be typing them up, you would be, and sending them up. Okay, like I said, that's probably not going to happen. In fact, you should be shocked if they actually do. Okay, they must be verified. Okay, I'm enclosing a written verification form. A verification is their signature, sign, and opinion of perjury that their responses are true and correct. Okay, so enclosed is not only the interrogatories, but a verification for them to sign. Okay, because our responses are not considered complete until they sign the verification that they are true and that they do that under penalty of perjury. Okay, please return them to the office. Now, every letter to the client, and probably every letter I ever send out of the office is, if you have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to contact me, or in this case, this office. Okay, all right. So, you know, every letter is going to end that way. Every letter, almost. Okay. Then we'll have we'll have an ending. Okay. Very truly yours is okay. Sincerely is okay. Love, dearest, things like that are not appropriate. Okay. So I just use very truly yours or sincerely in every letter I've ever done. Okay. And then obviously the name of the person that drafted the letter. Okay. Most of the time it will be the attorney. Okay. There will be instances when you actually send out a letter. In the example I'm going to give you next, it's going to go out from the secretary. Okay. But now there is one thing that your signature cannot appear on. Okay. And that is something like a client opinion letter. That needs to be signed by the attorney. Okay. Because you do not want to get in a position where it looks like you are actually giving legal advice. Okay. Right. Now at the bottom, you'll see some initials, JJ. Okay. Can you guess whose initials those are? Mine, because I'm the original writer. And then the next one is TCC. Okay. That is my secretary. Okay. So in capital letters go my initials as the original drafter, and in lowercase initials after the colon go the actual transcriber of the letter, okay, which was my secretary at the time. And then we indicate, see where it says enclosures there at the bottom? We indicate that there are enclosures. Now, what would those enclosures be? Well, we stated them in the letter, right? Okay, the form interrogatories themselves and the verification for them to sign and return. Okay, now, if you want them to sign and return them, what do you got to do? You got to provide them with an envelope and a stamped self-addressed envelope for them to return to you. Otherwise, they won't. Okay. Now, I usually don't because, like I said, they never return the rough drafts. Okay. But if you really want a response, send a stamped self-addressed envelope along with the letter. Okay. That's it for this first letter.